Hey, what's up guys? It's Lucas and you're watching Fine Tuning. And today we're going to do a little bit of a comparison shootout test experiment. I don't know what you want to call it exactly, just for funs. If you guys watch my channel, you probably know that I love my Legend amplifiers. I have an A60 here and a Rock and Roll 50. They are hybrid amplifiers. They have a preamp that's two preamp and then a solid state power amp. They're extremely loud. Old Celestians, and they're made of oak, and they just have a sound about them, and it's like kind of the sound I associate with electric guitar in my mind is these amps. So I keep sort of going back to them for everything because they just sound unique, and I really like that. When I was making the video for the Epiphone Moderne, that demo I shot a couple of weeks ago, I had them mic'd up, and you can still see the tape from where I have them mic'd up, and I just thought that tone was just spot on. I was like, that's it. That's the sound right there. And I thought to myself, okay, well, how can I capture this sound? Well, the first thing would be to do an impulse response. So I did that. So I made an impulse response using two SM57s. One is of my rock and roll cabinet, and that is Celestion G1280 from sometime in the early 80s, I think. And then the other one was my Legend A60 cabinet, which is a warehouse veteran 30. So it's kind of like a vintage 30. So those two speakers mic'd up with SM57s made an impulse response of that whole snapshot. And the reason that's cool is that with Legends, you have a two preamp and a solid state power amp because they're hybrids. So really the solid state power amp doesn't do just a ton to the tone one way or the other. It pretty much just makes it louder. All the tone really comes from the preamp of the amps. And that's cool because that means I can run the preamp sound of my amps directly into my interface, into that impulse response, and it's very, very close to as if I had just mic'd the amps up. It's very, very close, but without the ear-shredding volume that these amps are capable of. So that's awesome. I really appreciate that. And then I took it a step further last night, and I spent probably too much time dialing in my Helix to see if I could use that same impulse response in some amp models and some EQ and stuff like that. Like, can I get the Helix to sound like my Legends as if they were mic'd? And then that way I'd have to have none of this stuff. If I wanted to get that same sound, I could get something really, really close and have it all condensed into the small Helix form factor, which is super cool. So I think I've got pretty close. So I'm gonna do an A-B comparison. I literally have an A-B foot switch on the floor. I have both rigs plugged directly into my interface using that same impulse response. So that is about as close as I can get it that way. So I'm just curious as to one, which one do you think is which? We'll call one A and one B. Which one do you think is the real amp, and which one do you think is the Helix duplication? And then also, which one do you think sounds better? Because they are not mutually exclusive. So I have four kind of tones pulled up that are sort of my most commonly used favorite tones. That's a clean tone with a little bit of compression and reverb, a kind of mid-gain sort of growly grit sound, again with some reverb. My sort of more aggressive heavy sound, which is boosted with an overdrive kind of like aggressive metal sound. And then a lead sound, which is real smooth and really, really distorted, and it has some delay on it. So those are kind of like my main tones that I use for everything. So I'm gonna do each one individually, and I'll do the A and B for both. And you guys tell me which one you think is which and which one you like better. Oh, and real quick, I'm using my PRS Custom 24. This has my signature Planet Tones Statera pickups in it, which are just, again, my sound. So I'll leave a link to these in the description if you want to check them out. They're amazing. So I'm going to start with a clean tone. And like I said, this is just clean with some compression and reverb. And I'll start on the A, which is one of the two setups. And then we'll move to the B and do the same kind of thing. And I'll go back and forth. I'll put up on the screen which one I'm playing, because they are really close, I think. So here is the A, and that sounds like this. Okay, so that's the clean sound. Now immediately I can hear a little bit of a difference there, but more than anything, there's a little bit of a feel difference. One of them feels a little bit better. I'm going to use the word better because I don't want to give it away. One of them feels a little better to me. But the sound is really, really close, I think, when I'm using my humbucking mode on the guitar, but when I go to a split coil, one of them sounds decidedly different than I expected, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. It's like the gain staging is different. So I noticed that. So let's move on to the next sound, which is like a kind of a mid-gain sound, and we'll kind of mess around with the bridge pickup because that's pretty much what I would do on this type setting. So let's try that. All right, so with that gritty kind of sound, to me it's even harder to tell the difference. Like, I mean, I can feel the difference a little bit, but less so than with the other sound. And I don't think the split coil thing makes as much difference. And the sound is really close. I mean, definitely imperceptible to someone listening to that in a mix, like in a bar or something. Like, you would never hear it there. But I mean, it's really, really close. I'm pretty pleased with the way that came out. So let me know again which one you think is better, A or B, and which one you think is which. So we're gonna move on to the next set now. So this is gonna be basically that same sound we were just using, but I'm hitting the front of it real hard with an overdrive to develop kind of like a metal type sound, like an aggressive, heavy sound. So I'm gonna tune the guitar down to drop D and play some riffs, and you kind of, again, tell me which one you think sounds better and which is which. Okay, so that sound, which is the A60 sound, the drive channel sound of the A60 with an overdrive in front of it to really kick it into aggressive metal territory. To me, the feel on those two is so incredibly close. Like, because the A60 has a little bit of like a sag to it. I mean, even though it's not got a tube power amp, it has a little bit of a kind of a mushy sag to it that feels really good to play, and it has a unique kind of sound on those low strings that I really like. And I was able to dial in something on the Helix that I think is so close feel-wise. Like if I close my eyes, I just about can't tell. So I'm really pleased with the way that came out. Again, there's a little difference that I can hear, but it's so minute. So we're gonna move to the last sound. This is my lead sound. So everything up until this point has been the A60s clean or drive channels with or without a boost, something like that. But at this point, now we're gonna be trying to model the rock and rolls drive sound, and that is for me an incredibly important tone because it's so mid-rangey and melodic and musical, and it just sounds incredible, and it's got this amazing harmonic quality to it. But it's really hard to cop. Like it's so, I spent so much time on this one trying to get it right, and it's still not. I think I can tell the difference. I mean, it's really close, but I think I can tell the difference. But anyway, so we're gonna do that now. Again, starting with A and then moving to B. Tell me which one you think sounds better, which one you think, that's really making a noise at me, which one you think sounds better, and which one is which. So starting with A, we'll play through and you can tell me what you think. I mean, it's so close. Like, I mean, we're really talking about nitpicky stuff here. One of them has a noticeable kind of mid-hump to me that the other one doesn't. And it's hard to get that mid-range in just the right spot to me. Like, there's a little bit of a weird thing that I haven't figured out what part of the mid-range it is, because it just has like a sound. The Legend, the rock and roll, has like a very specific harmonic thing that it does. It's something about the way the gain staging and the compression and everything is, but it does a very specific kind of snarly, honky harmonic thing. And I haven't totally been able to reproduce that yet, and that's part of what makes the Legend so special, is that sound. It just makes everything squeal out, it just jumps off the guitar. It's super cool. So yeah, otherwise though, I mean, like feel-wise, they're really close. Again, the rock and roll has kind of a little bit of a sag to it. I got pretty close, I think, like the way it feels underneath my fingers when I'm doing legato-y stuff. I mean, it feels very liquid, fluid. It's a lot of fun to play. So yeah, that's kind of a comparison between the two. So go ahead if you haven't and write down in the comments which one you think is which, A or B, which one is Legend and which one is the Helix. And then also tell me which one you think sounds better. And then I'm going to tell you here in just a second, after you've written the comment, which one is which. So go ahead, pause the video if you need to, come back. Okay, now that you've done that, so on all of these, the A setting is original amp, the Legend, with the impulse response in the computer. Consistently, there's like a mid-rangey something that I can't quite put my finger on it, but the Legend, still the real one, just wins out just by a touch for most of the sounds. Of course, that means B was the Helix on all of them, and I'm so pleased with how it came out, even though I can tell the difference, and the Legend wins for me just by a little bit. Still, it's so good, and again, in the mix, whether that's in recording or live or whatever, the difference would be basically imperceptible, because the feel is so similar and the tonal range is so similar. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what I used for that, it was that impulse response that I made, and all of the amp sounds from clean to the heaviest thing, it's all the Helix's high watt model, the Who Watt 100. Interesting. So I'm going to make this preset and this impulse response available to download for free. I'll just leave a link to a Google Drive in the description. If you want to download it, you can have it. By all means, enjoy it. Even if you don't use the Helix and you just want the impulse response, I think the impulse response sounds good too, so have at it. So again, let me know what you guys think. Were you surprised? Did you catch it from the beginning all along? Did you know what was up? So anyway, it's just a little fun experiment for me. So I'm going to continue tweaking with this just a little bit at a time as I get it, but I'm so close now that I don't want to mess with it too much. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and until next time, I will catch you later.